Today, we're zeroing in on a moment that, honestly, you could call a singularity point for the entire AI industry. We're talking about a single day where the future of artificial intelligence just snapped into focus.
So you have to ask, right? Can one single day really change everything for an entire industry? It sounds like a stretch, but sometimes a 24-hour window doesn't just hint at the future. It pulls the curtain back on a future that's already arrived.
And for AI, that day was October 2nd, 2025. This wasn't just another Tuesday with some new app update. No, this was a massive inflection point. It's the day the hype around AI collided head-on with the hard realities of money, global power, and believe it or not, physics.
So here's how we're going to break it down. We'll look at that single day of change, dive into the new economics of intelligence, unpack something called the agentic shift, see AI's growing physical footprint, watch as Washington wakes up, and finally, map out the new three-front war for AI dominance.
All right, let's kick things off with the money, because on this day, the scale of investment in AI just went into an entirely new stratosphere. It changed the whole game.
And this is the number that just made everyone's jaw drop. $500 billion. That was OpenAI's new valuation. I mean, that made it the most valuable private company on Earth. But you know, the real story here isn't just the number, it's how they got there.
See, what's so wild is that they didn't do this by raising a bunch of new money. It was a secondary sale, basically letting their employees and early investors cash in. This was a power move. It wasn't about funding operations. It was a strategic weapon to keep their top-tier talent from getting poached. It completely rewrote the playbook for how a mega startup can act without going public.
But underneath that staggering valuation, there's this really weird, kind of scary problem. The ROI Paradox. Here's the deal. With most software, the more people use it, the cheaper it gets per user. With AI, it's the exact opposite. It gets more expensive. And when you're looking at infrastructure costs hitting almost $3 trillion, well, you see the problem.
And this paradox is literally splitting the economy into two camps. On one side, you have this tiny, elite club of intelligence providers. Think OpenAI, NVIDIA, Microsoft. They build the core tech, and their value is just astronomical. And then on the other side, you've got, well, everybody else. We're the intelligence consumers, and our success now hinges entirely on how smartly we can use the tools the first group builds.
Okay, so that's the money. Now let's talk about the tech itself. Because on this day, the whole conversation changed. It went from what cool stuff can AI create to what can AI actually do. This is what we're calling the agentic shift.
And you can see this shift happening in real time. Companies are now on this clear journey. Step one is where we've been. AI just helps us out. But step two is where it gets interesting. Humans start collaborating with these AI agents that are always on, always working. And the end goal? Step three, fully autonomous AI that can run an entire complex workflow all by itself.
This quote from Quantometric just nails it. The whole point is to stop focusing on fancy dashboards that show you data. It's about AI taking that data and making a decision for you, or at the very least, telling you the exact next step. It's about moving from just looking at problems to actively solving them.
Now, this shift has kicked off a brand new war. You've got the big proprietary players, your Microsofts and Salesforces, who are building these super powerful do-everything agent systems. But then you've got this really cool countermove from the open source world. Models like IBM's Granite aren't trying to be the biggest and baddest. Nope, they're all about efficiency, what they call performance per dollar, trying to make this incredible tech way more accessible to everyone.
But here's the thing. All this incredible digital progress comes with a very real, very physical price tag. This is the moment where AI's exponential dreams run smack into the hard limits of the real world.
2 exaflops. I mean, just try to wrap your head around that. That's 2 quintillion calculations every single second. That's the power of MIT's new supercomputer, TX Gain. And this thing isn't just for running lab experiments. It's deeply tied to the defense and intelligence communities, which proves a new rule of geopolitics. Leadership in AI now comes down to who has the most raw physical compute power, period.
Which brings us right back to that ROI paradox, but this time you can see it. Look at this chart. On the left, that massive bar is the projected spending on infrastructure. On the right, that tiny little bar represents even the most incredible revenues we're seeing. That huge gap between spending and earning, it's basically all being poured into physical stuff, into hardware.
And that hardware is hungry.
It's putting a massive strain on local water supplies. It's demanding so much electricity that it's stressing our power grids. It's even forcing companies like Uber to buy other companies just to get better data about the real world. It's even led to these new robotic labs where AI can run its own physical experiments to learn chemistry. It's wild.
Okay, so when you have this much money flying around, this much power at stake, and this much real-world impact, you just knew the regulators were going to show up. And on this day, it felt like Washington and the states finally woke up and decided to get serious about AI rules.
And right away, we saw two totally different ideas about how to do this. The federal approach is all about pre-deployment vetting. Basically, the government wants to test and approve these powerful AI models before they're released to the public, treating it almost like a weapons system. But California's approach is completely different. It's all about mandatory transparency. They're saying companies have to publicly share their safety plans, framing it as an issue of public trust.
And when you put the US plans next to what the EU is already doing, you get this messy patchwork of rules that everyone in the industry was afraid of. They all have different principles, different scopes, different penalties. Imagine trying to build a global AI product right now. It's a legal minefield, and navigating it is the new cost of doing business.
So, after all that, what's the big picture? What does it all mean? Well, when you piece together everything that happened on this one day, you realize the race for AI supremacy isn't just a simple race anymore. It's a war, and it's being fought on 3 different fronts at the same time.
Front number 1 is the foundational models themselves, the raw horsepower of the AI. Front number 2 is the talent, the geniuses who can actually build this stuff. But front number 3 is the one that might be the most important now, the battle for compute and infrastructure. The chips, the data centers, the energy. You can have the best model and the best people, but if you can't power it, you lose. You have to win on all 3 fronts.
So, what's next? Well, we can pretty much see the writing on the wall. The agentic AI that's in fancy enterprise software today, that's going to be in the apps on your phone very soon. The fight for hardware and energy is only going to get more intense. And that collision between all those different regulations, yeah, that's not an if, it's a when.
Which really just leaves us with one last massive question. As this technology gets more and more powerful, who's really in the driver's seat? Is it the innovators who are building it, the regulators who are trying to put guardrails on it, or is it in the end the simple, hard limits of the physical world, the amount of energy and resources we have, that will truly decide our future?